Beach FM, locals talking to locals.
Beach FM, great to welcome now candidate for the Waikanae Community Board, Richard Mansell. Good morning and welcome to you.
Good morning to you too.
Well, Richard, we had a chat to Jill Griggs recently here on the radio machine, and I almost said, what's a nice girl like you being involved in politics? Because she found that coming from the, basically the commercial sector, she's a doer. And she found that the messiness of politics was a little bit more that she could endure. You're a doer, Richard. You come from a family that's achieved so much in this area over the years. Why do you want to get involved in politics?
Well, I have reached a stage in my life where I feel I should be giving back. I've had my children and I've worked my business hard, and I've got a good group of people around me who are running coastlands, and I think I've got a little bit of time to give back to the community.
So are you much involved in coastlands? Of course, your family, in fact, they developed and established and built coastlands way going back, and that, in its time, that must have been quite a brave decision, Richard.
It was a huge decision back then. There was a lot of local businessmen who put their time and their effort and their money into something that was quite untried. And then, lo and behold, we've become the beast that we are. And that's probably why I feel I've got the time.
Yes.
We're so big that we have to have a lot of people helping us run the place. And while I'm the CEO and the buck stops with me, the hard work actually starts with other people. I sit here and people come into my office, give me the facts, and I have to make a decision. And I think I can afford a little bit of time. I'm not sure how much time is involved in the community board, but I think I can afford the time, and I'm happy to give it back.
Richard, I have to warn you, I think that the time involved in all of politics over the last year or so has increased exponentially. I'm full of admiration for the amount of work that's being done in central and local government to keep the country going to the extent that it has in the face of really enormous challenges. So I suspect there might be a little bit more than you expect. But look, let's just talk about the times in which we live and your expertise in terms of retail. How are things going, do you think, for coastlands and for the regional economy?
Well, coastlands and probably the Kapiti region are a little bit unique. We have our basically 25% of our population are over the age of 65 and are receiving superannuation, and therefore they know where their next dollar's coming from. So that tends to smooth out our peaks and our troughs. We might not ever have the huge gains that other areas have, because an elderly population, while they're on a fixed income, it is fixed, so they can only spend so much. But in the inverse, when times are bad, they still have that fixed amount that they can spend. So as an economy, a Kapiti economy, I think we've probably not gone in as hard, and we probably have come out a little better than other areas. Certainly we see in our foot traffic figures and the turnover figures here at Coastlands that while March and April were terrible, May, June and especially July, anecdotally the retailers have said it's a little bit quieter, but again not as bad as say Auckland when they locked down.
And of course those older consumers do tend to be quite faithful to their retailers, and they like to shop local in my experience, so that's all to the good as well, isn't it?
Yes. They also like comfortable surroundings and reasonable parking. I know we have a bit of criticism about our parking, but you generally can find a park somewhere. And we offer lots of seats, and it's warm and it's dry and it's pleasant. It's not too busy. It could be busier. I'd be happier if it was.
I'm sure you would. Well, perhaps, Richard, we should get on to Waikanae, because I suspect Mahara Place has got its challenges. And also Waikanae, which is this beautiful village that we all love so much, it is growing rapidly. It's obvious to anyone with half a glass eye that the real expansion in the Kapiti Coast is coming in Waikanae, particularly to the north of Waikanae. What are the challenges you see for Waikanae, and why are you standing for the Waikanae Community Board?
Okay, well, the challenges are, as you pointed out, that growth is going to come, and the main place that we can have growth is Waikanae North. And because of that, we'll get all sorts of things like traffic and pressure on schools and pressure on doctor services. My mother complained the other day that it's almost impossible to get into a doctor, and she doesn't want new people coming because it'll make it harder. So there's things like that. Just an increased population will increase the pressure on the services that we have, and unless we're planning for that increase in population, then we'll be behind the eight ball the whole time.
So that's an important part of it. What about Mahara Place? Do you think that has a future as a commercial centre?
I certainly do. You can't just have one block of shops down the coastlands. It's not really sustainable. If you want to go and get a cup of coffee or a loaf of bread or something, you'll pop to the local shops, and that's why keeping Mahara Place and developing it and making it more attractive and friendly to be in is such an important thing. It will redevelop itself over time, and the services that will be offered will change. And for instance, if you look at the cafes up there, they've got 3 or 4 thriving cafes who will do well, because people just want to pop to the local, have a cup of coffee and a bit of a wander around. They might go to the movies. So it's got a future. It will have to change itself. Well, it already is changing itself. I can remember Mahara Place when you could drive your car in and park there, and it's changed to a more friendly commuter, pedestrian-friendly place, and it'll continue to do so. And if it's an attractive place to go, then people will go there. And once the people are there, then the shops will open and start offering different services. And with the expected population flow into the area, it will only get more attractive.
To what extent do you think the council should be the generator of the sales? The council's already invested an enormous amount of money in Mahara Place. So I guess the question is it enough, and what more should be done to ensure the commercial future of Mahara Place?
I don't think the council should or even can afford to do much more than they've done. They've made it a pleasant place to be. They are putting their money where their mouth is with the library, hopefully, and that's about all they can do. They can provide the services, they can't provide the retail. The retail has to be driven by business people, and business people will see a niche and they will jump into it.
Richard, do you think the concentration, as we both sort of agreed that the major expansion in the area is coming to the north of Waikanae, do you think there's got to be more attention paid to that, and in particular the possibility of a true interchange at Peka Peka?
Certainly do think Peka Peka needs full interchanges. It's crazy that they're expecting people who in Waikanae to drive through Waikanae Beach and up Peka Peka Road to get in or out of the district. And even then you can't do it properly. You have to do all sorts of meandering through the place. Peka Peka is crying out for a full interchange, and has been ever since they started developing it. I think it was a head in the sand option by NZTA, the way they went with just a limited interchange. And it'll probably come back to bite them, as it'll be far more expensive to retrofit it.
And what else would you advocate in terms of that expansion to the north?
Well, it's not just the north, it's over the railway line.
Oh, yes.
Out to the east. And Rikarangi Valley's probably developing. There's all those new sections on the hill at Koikoi Park. And there's only one road in and out, and it's stopped 4 times a day or 4 times an hour by trains. So there's got to be some clever way, and there's probably traffic engineers out there who can work a way of how to get in and out of that side of the road. We also, we've got an excellent expressway down the bottom of the district or the ward, but the people over the railway line are more or less trapped.
So are you suggesting a tunnel or a bridge over the railway line?
Well, yeah, it's really hard. You don't want anything to go across the railway line because, in all likelihood, in a few years' time, they're going to be pushing rail through to Otaki. So we'd just end up with two crossings being restricted by trains. But I think the best way to do it would be some sort of overbridge. Tunnelling's a bit difficult, although you may be able to do it into what is the Goodman's Yard and coming out at Ann Street. But that would require the cooperation of a lot of people. I'm not sure how they'll do it, but they need to.
You mentioned your mother having trouble with the doctors and not really wanting more people to come in. I suspect that is a reasonably common sentiment, particularly with some of the older population who love Waikanae the way it is. We're going to have to live with expansion. Do you think that educating people, coercing or cajoling people into accepting the inevitable is going to be part of the community board's mandate as we go forward?
I certainly think it is. We really need to communicate as a community board. We need to communicate better. Or if I get elected, sorry, getting a bit presumptive there. Yes.
You realise there's 2 vacancies now, Richard, so your chances must have gone up.
Well, 2 vacancies and only 1 candidate. I might get double in that work. Yeah, I think people need to know what's happening, and the community board also need to know what people are thinking. And that's another one of the points I sort of wanted to push if I got in, was that there needs to be a two-way dialogue. It can't just be 4 people making decisions, and investigate how we can get better communication with the people in Waikanae who can tell us what they want. At the moment, there's a meeting every 6 weeks and you can come along and make a presentation. But with the days of electronic stuff, and I'm not all that up on it, but Facebook and...
Zoom is the big thing these days, Richard. I'm sure you'll be Zooming in the foreseeable future. Most people seem to be. So it's going to be fascinating. The Waikanae Community Board, in case you haven't caught up, Jill Griggs has resigned, and of course we had the earlier resignation of Mr. Churchman, and I believe that nominations must be in by the 11th of September and voting documents must be returned by Saturday the 7th of November. That's my current estimation. I'm not sure whether Jill Griggs' resignation has changed that timeline at all. But no doubt we'll be talking again, Richard. I'd like to thank you for your time this morning. You've been very generous, and perhaps we can do it again sometime here on Beach FM. Richard Mansell, thank you.
Thank you very much.
106.3 Beach FM.